networks covered it yesterday, because it's amazing. Testimony began yesterday at 11:36 a.m., went till 5 p.m. We carried it all until 5 p.m. It had a few minutes left in it. Fox aired it for 108 minutes. Now that is a huge amount compared to CNN, who covered it for 17, and compared to MSNBC, who covered it for 0 minutes. At 2 p.m., all of the networks cut away from the hearings for live coverage of the Jodi Arias trial. Now, let me ask you a question. How does the courtroom trial of a random person in Arizona get more play than the president and his administration, who was lying about the death of a United States ambassador? Here's what the Washington Post said. When the Washington Post was asked, why aren't you covering the Philadelphia murder trial, you know, the abortion doctor? This is what they actually said. I cover policy for the Washington Post, not local crime. Hence, I wrote about the policy issues that you mentioned. So what they're saying, the Washington Post is saying that a doctor who actually has a jar of baby feet, this is not your random killer. This is a jar of baby feet. The Washington Post doesn't think you're interested in that. Doesn't think it's important because it's a local story. A jar of baby feet? Really? No, not interested. Well, wait a minute, Washington Post. Why aren't you covering the Benghazi story? Because the Jodi Arias story is nothing but local. Benghazi is international intrigue. It's Jason Bourne, John Wayne, James Bond. It's all of them. It's even all the president's men. The Washington Post broke Watergate. They ain't breaking this one. They are part of the problem. The media is so far gone, it cannot be revived. The Washington Post, out of all of the updates yesterday, actually said this. They said, who's tweeting about Benghazi? Rich, middle-aged men and Chick-fil-A lovers. What are they saying? They're saying white Tea Party members. See what they've just done? The president used the film and the filmmaker and American rights in Benghazi, trying to say that American rights, or Americans using their First Amendment right in such a way, killed the ambassador. That an ambassador and 3 others were actually killed because of American freedoms. That wasn't true at all, but that's what they did. Now, the Washington Post is responding, and if I may translate what they said, nobody cares except white Christians. America, please wake up. That's the most racist, bigoted statement I have ever heard. If I said to you, the only person that cared about Trayvon Martin were a bunch of young blacks, that watch RuPaul's Drag Race, what would I be saying to you? I would be implying that only black people and gay men cared about that story. No one would allow or accept anything like that. You wouldn't get away with it. And you shouldn't get away with it. Why? It's racist, it's bigoted, it's wrong. So why can the Washington Post get away with it? And what does it say about us that we're not outraged? David Gregory said the Benghazi talking points, merely handled by the Obama administration, was sloppiness. Huffington Post said it was incompetence, but there was no cover-up. Really? CBS News, oh, they were great. They buried the Benghazi hearing story on the front page today. Now, this is amazing. There's nothing on this except when you go to the most discussed, the #1 story is Benghazi. Their own analytics at Benghazi is the most talked about story on their website. Yet they're suppressing the story. Why? Well, let me give you some information maybe you don't know. They have a reporter who's up in arms now, Cheryl Atkinson. She's from CBS. She's all over this story, but no one knows about it because all of her CBS bosses have not allowed her stories to see the light of day because, quote, according to CBS, she's waiting dangerously close to advocacy. Really? Now, she's the one who received a 2012 Emmy nomination and the Edward R. Murrow Award for this report on Fast and Furious. They didn't like that story either. Sounds to me like she's an advocate for truth. By the way, speaking of advocacy, CBS News Does anybody in the media find it interesting that the president of your company, of CBS News, has a brother who just happens to be the Deputy National Security Advisor for Strategic Communications for President Obama? In fact, he's the guy who wrote the president's 2009 Cairo speech, A New Beginning, and it's been widely reported, even the Washington Post reported this one, that Ben Rhodes is credited with changing the talking points on Benghazi. That guy is the brother of the president of CBS News? CBS, which one is the one with the advocacy problem again? The media's coverage has been shameful, negligent, atrocious, criminal. The time for fixing the media is over. I came in this morning and I said to Stu, I said, what do you do? What do you do? He said, we're doing it. And we are. We're forging a new path. Many are ignoring the facts altogether, claiming this is just partisan politics. I can't even take this. I can only watch this for a second.
And I want to ask you about the Benghazi hearings happening on the other side of the Capitol right now, because there has been some suggestion by Democrats that this is political in nature, and it's really an attempt to go after
I can't listen
Hillary
to this.
Clinton.
This is Mrs. Alan Greenspan, the one who's given us this great bubble economy, talking to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Hey, you've got to be kidding me. And she said, I'm going to be tough on you. I want to ask you, there are some people that say that this is only an attack on Hillary Clinton. Can I tell you something? I don't care if I'm trying to think of who I really, really support in Congress. I don't care if it was Jesus that had done the things that has happened in Benghazi. I would still report the story as, this doesn't make sense. The guy who claims he's Jesus seems to be lying. I don't care if it's not about the presidency. It's about the fundamental transformation, not of our country, that's already happened, but of who we are. This story has so many holes in it, it's practically begging to be investigated. But the opposite is happening. They're parroting the administration storylines. Remember, they're not only parroting, they're not only telling you, but now, to add insult to injury, the State Department spends $70,000 of your money to run an ad in Pakistan that featured President Obama and Hillary Clinton denouncing the anti-Muslim film. You gotta be kidding me. Then they stood behind Susan Rice. Here's the Undersecretary of State on October 10th.
If any administration official, including any career official, had been on television on Sunday, September 16th, they would have said the same thing that Ambassador Rice would have said. She had information at that point from the intelligence community, and that is the same information I had, and this I would have.
This is a bold-faced lie, and we now know that. We now know that. In fact, we now know that the guy who changed the information for everybody is the brother of the president of CBS News. And we know that Hicks, what he thought of the made-up storyline. Here he is, yesterday.
So fast forward, Mr. Hicks, to the Sunday talk shows and Ambassador Susan Rice. She blamed this attack on the video. In fact, she did it 5 different times. What was your reaction to that?
I was stunned. My jaw dropped. And I was embarrassed.
Well, the journalist should be embarrassed as well. Hillary Clinton said there was no intelligence warning that an attack was imminent. Remember?
And with all of our missions overseas in advance of September 11th, as is done every year, we did an evaluation.
Maybe if somebody bothered to look into it, we wouldn't have had to wait until yesterday to find out that that wasn't true either.
In Bahrain, my Shia opposition contacts gave me advance warning of impending attacks on our embassy and anti-government, anti-American demonstration.
Okay.
Allowing us to...
So Hillary Clinton said a few weeks ago, she said, what is the difference? It's all over. What difference does it make? Well, it matters. It matters. It matters because we can't live in a country. We can't live in a country like this. If all of these things are true, we can't. Because you can. The answer to this one, what happens if you can no longer trust others? Nothing. Nothing. If I can't trust you, you can't trust me. We don't have any system. Remember, these are the guys. In God we trust. No. In the full faith and credit of the United States of America. There is no faith and credit. There's nothing. The only reason why systems work is because you believe it will work. Because you believe if we no longer believe in each other, if the president can out and out lie, the media can back him up, Congress just goes their own way, and the State Department can lie to everybody on the earth, we have no chance of survival. And we have no chance of moving forward with peace and equal justice. More people, perhaps millions more, will die if the world's standard of honor, decency, and truth is not finally put on the right path. I'm not saying that Barack Obama is the problem here. This has been on the wrong path for a long, long time. But this is out of control. We have to know who to trust. That's why we're building this network. Last night we aired the second episode of our new 60 Minutes. It's tough, man. It would win Emmys out the butt if this was any other network or if it was any other topic. It's really well done. It looks great. The journalism is top notch. Our crew honestly risked their life and limb to be in Egypt to talk with Coptic Christians who bought into the Glorious Revolution storyline being fed by our president and regurgitated by the press. They insisted that their faces were not blocked out so people could look them in the eye. That's what these people on the last night's show said. We want people to see us. We want people to see it. They're marked for death. We want people to see us so they will look in our eyes. Now the violence and oppression is even worse. The other story the media is ignoring, also on the show last night, human trafficking and the sex